There's never been a better time to create a SaaS company. So many new tools and products are developed every day, and with tech evolving so rapidly, there's really no shortage of opportunities and ideas. So join us as we dive deep into some of these amazing companies and explore the journeys that got them to where they are today. Welcome to Hey, Nice SaaS.
Hey, Asher, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and share a little bit about y'all's story and just the journey that has gotten you guys to where you are today. So I'd love to hear, just kind of share a little bit about your background, what it is you do, and what you guys are working on.
Definitely. Well, thank you. First of all, thanks, Evan, for having me on. I'm excited to chat a little bit today. Um, a little bit of background on myself and the company in general. My name is Asher. I'm the COO at Frienzy, the group travel planner. Um, been full time now for about 2.5 months, but we've been working on it over the course of the past year. Uh, Frienzy is a collaborative tool to manage and coordinate group travel planning, trips of all sorts, whether it be international, whether it be wedding weekends, bachelor trips, weekend getaways. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about a little bit more about the product itself. Background on me, I started my career in tech sales in San Francisco and moved back to Dallas, from Dallas originally, moved back to Dallas about 3 months ago and moved in with James, my co-founder, and the CEO, just so we could be across the kitchen table together, literally working working on the project and really maximizing the output.
That's awesome. If you don't mind, because I know we talked a little bit, in a call, you had shared a little bit about that experience. What were you working on? Kind of, if you're building this kind of in the evenings at night, kind of in your spare time, right? What were you doing full time before jumping into this?
Yeah, so I actually moved out to San Francisco. I say on a whim, but I had just finished college and James, funny enough, co-founder, introduced me to a site called Angel List, and I was searching for jobs and trying just looking for a way in to the industry in general. And I knew San Francisco, right, was a great place to start, especially not only from a learning perspective, but an exposure perspective. And my first job actually was at a tiny, tiny real estate startup called MLC Spaces. And it's what we were doing there is we were renting apartments, almost real estate arbitrage in a way, renting apartments and renting out the rooms individually. Um, so renting these 12 bedroom houses and renting them out individually. And then from there, I was working at Cloud Kitchens, which was Travis Kalanick's kind of second company post Uber. And there I just learned a ton about not only the sales industry, but tech in general and how to scale a business. As big as the company is already, it's very much still a startup and really teaches you, the teachings were invaluable really for me. And that's kind of up until Frienzy what I had been doing. I was there for 2.5 years and learned a ton.
That's incredible. I love that, and I think if you study those around you, right? Especially if you're in proximity to people who are doing the thing that you want to do, right? You're in San Francisco. It's like, tech companies galore, right? All kinds of opportunities to see case studies and to learn and to kind of be in proximity to those people that you want to, yeah, you want to kind of glean from their experience and borrow some of their knowledge. But I love that that's kind of the almost a catalyst, right? That kind of gave you maybe the confidence to step into your own thing.
No, yeah, 100%. And we'll get into it further as we talk about, starting Frienzy and all of that. But I knew just from, you know, especially a career starting standpoint, right? Kind of exposing myself not only to that, that type of vulnerability, but really exposure in general would it take me further in the future, kind of setting myself up for that delayed gratification in one way or another.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you're kind of preparing yourself for the challenges that are
Yeah.
inevitable, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
It leads me kind of. One of the things I'm always most fascinated by, we see these success stories, and everybody just kind of assumes like, oh, of course, it must have been an easy ride for them to arrive to where they are today. But we know that to be anything but the case, right? So, obviously, you guys are doing well. Did you guys just close a? Was it a seed round? You guys just
Yeah, so we actually just closed an angel round, and
angel
we're
round?
already looking forward here towards the end of Q4, early Q1, looking to raise our price seed round. We're starting to
That's awesome.
we're in talks with some VCs and partners, and really we know the metrics ahead, we need the attainable metrics, and it's been great to kind of set that goal for us and handle this milestone by milestone, really with the end goal in sight.
That's incredible. So obviously there's traction, right? I don't think that you can get buy-in, especially from people who want, to bet on a winning horse, right? I don't think that that can happen if unless there's something there, right? Tangible, idealistic. There's a concept there that works. And kind of with that, kind of where you guys sit today, there's success, there's traction, it's picking up, it's growing. We're excited about the future. But if you don't mind,
Yeah.
share a little bit about like kind of entering into the new world, like what when you guys began this, when you guys decided, yeah, we want to pursue it, what was the motivator? Why start your own SaaS company? Why start Frienzy?
Definitely. So it's it's I say it's a funny story. If so, James, a little bit of background about James and myself, right? We met. I had moved around a ton as a kid, but I'd moved to Dallas for high school. And funny enough, James and I were classmates in high school and only lived 4 blocks from each other. But definitely early on, in the early on days, hanging out, getting to know each other, we quickly realized that we shared some of those kind of intangible those characteristics, some of those that would require starting a business, including just I say risk, right, courage. Yes, of course, in anything there's a ton of self-doubt, but both of us had been fairly challenged kind of early on in our lives, just with like anybody, anything personally. And we're able to learn really the importance of, you know, I say the outcome of struggle, but also the outcome of hard work and determination. And so really being able to harness that. And right, we were having conversations about starting a business together 10 years ago, right? We're 27 now. We were talking about this when we were 17, sitting around the fire pit in the backyard. Like, hey, man, let's do what we need to do. Let's learn from the best or learn from, right, the right people, and then let's go out and try to do something together. And so we kind of look back and laugh, even now, but even a year ago when we first decided to start this, and said, man, this is everything that we dreamed of. And sometimes we have to pinch ourselves, and it's hard to really, when you're so focused on, you know, the present, it's hard to take a minute and look over your shoulder and say, hey, man, this is what we dreamed of, and this is what we were talking about 10 years ago. But yes, very happy to where we are now and excited to share, really kind of dive deeper into the not just the upside, but the struggle, the tribulations, right? Everything in between. And man, it's not easy. It's not easy. It looks all great and
Yeah.
glorious when you're posting about it online, but behind the scenes, it's a it's definitely a challenge. Can you hear me, Evan?
Sorry, I
Yeah,
cut out for a
can
second.
you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
sorry.
can. Yeah. So you had mentioned, and I love that you kind of leaned into that a bit, and I would love to unpack a little bit more of that,
Yeah,
right? The
definitely.
challenges. We've talked a little bit offline. Like that's something that I'm under the belief that like in those challenges where the greatest lessons are found, and that's where like the most growth happens. So yeah, if you could just my I guess the big thing I'm always curious about is like, were there moments that it felt like it was gonna fail, that it wouldn't succeed? Have there been times, where, the consensus was almost, "Let's throw in the towel and do something else," and if so, like, what led to that? And yeah, paint that picture for us.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, we have doubts every single day, and it's, are we doing the right thing? Are we spending money in the right places? What does our trajectory look like? What could we be doing more? And it's definitely one thing that, one of those characteristics that James and I really share is obviously we're happy and grateful and so thankful to be in the position that we are, but not in a non-greedy way, always asking ourselves how can we be better, and we challenge each other each and every day to say, hey, you know, you could be doing this better, or I could be doing this better, and reflecting, constant reflection, and figuring out kind of how the best course of action from there. I would say in terms of starting the company and keeping ourselves going, right? There's definitely a sense of vulnerability involved, and people sometimes are scared to throw out that word, but because being vulnerable in right where we are, where we want to go, where we've been, and right, breaking it down in a pragmatic sense is something that, and really an exercise that he and I probably go through once a day, if not multiple times a day.
When you say, step almost like stepping into that vulnerability, what are what are some of those fears and doubts that you guys may have when that kind of, when that, like, initiates, right? When you guys feel like that state of, like, maybe it's the reality of, like, "Oh, these are some struggles that we're stepping into. In order to get to where we wanna go, we have to go through this period of challenge that." So yeah, yeah, talk me through if you would, just kinda like what's the mental framing like? What's the interaction between the 2 of you like? What's that look like?
Definitely. So, we are, well, we do share certain characteristics, right? We are completely different in terms of our skill set and our background, right? James is handles product. He manages, he's has a um, CS background, and he was actually a full-time coder before stepping into this role, where now he manages our entire product team. Whereas I'm much more partnerships, operations, day to day, right? And the conversations, I wish, unfortunately he can make it today, but the conversations that we have, right? Because one thing that I found most valuable to us, and it's one piece of advice that we got a while back, was make sure you are talking to your users as much as possible, right? You don't know where to go unless you actually are understanding the needs and wants of your users. So we really set aside about 2 hours each day to call our users and say, hey, nice to meet you. We're, the founders of Frienzy. We would love to chat with you just about your experience with the app, what you liked, what you didn't like, how can we improve. And honestly, I would say the most, um, we've probably learned the most through those conversations in general. And afterwards, right, we're taking notes throughout, and we have a big whiteboard right next to the table that we work at, and we just go down the list and say, all right, what can we do here? Should we do this? Should we not do this? And we'll even call our users back sometimes, 2 weeks later and say, hey, go check out the app. We really took your advice to heart, and
Yeah.
we're glad that you are that your advice is paying off, not only for me but for you as well. And so I would say the biggest thing where a lot of people are, and founders I found, are so focused on that initial vision, right? It's hard and challenging for founders to actually accept new ideas and adapt on the fly. And that is one of those vulnerability things that we both learned. And it's made our product literally 100 times better than what we initially imagined.
That's so good. I love that. I mean, it makes sense when you step back away from it, but how challenging is it to step away from your baby long enough to recognize, like, okay, yeah, if I have to kill my darlings, right? I had this big long list of feature sets that I'm partial to, but what do the users actually want? What do people really want to do with this thing that we've
Hmm.
created ultimately for them? And I love that idea because it's like it requires, like you said, a level of vulnerability, maybe even humility, because like if there's 10, big feature sets we want to roll out and 8 of them don't resonate with our ideal user, like ultimately if we want to serve them well, we need to know what it is that they need. And obviously like the lean startup method, right? It's kind of getting that
Hmm.
validation. You put something in their hands and you're seeing the feedback and the response, but and I'm new to this world, right? But it almost feels like it's it's simple in its concept and it's not easy in the application in terms of like getting that user feedback, actually doing the manual one-to-one hand-to-hand combat of like having those conversations, having real, phone calls or emails or survey, whatever it is, and getting actual responses and feedback. But again, when you can take a step back, and it's easy for someone else to look at someone else's product and say, of course, you should ask your users what they think. But when you're in it and it's like, we've dreamt of this for so long, and this has been our vision, to be able to pull away from that enough to say, okay, like, how can it be the best, quality and utility for the people for whom it's intended? So I love that approach. I think there's a ton of wisdom in that.
No, I listen. I appreciate it, and I know Frienzy, our product, appreciates it too. If you
Yeah.
if you have any feedback, I'd be open to it. So you just let me know. All right.
Nice. Yeah, of course. Yeah, offline. I'll take a look. It's funny too. I think that there's I joke about this a lot, kind of because I come in with um the different clients that I've had over the years. Like I am not an expert in their field, so I kind of have like the ignorance advantage, right? So like when you're looking at it so closely, you have the curse of knowledge, and all the things that but like having that ignorance advantage, it's like you get to ask the dumb questions and you have permission to ask the dumb questions. But what I like about it is it kind of puts it back to like its most basic
Mhm.
concept, right? It kind of puts it back to like the leveled playing field of what is this, solving? What solution is this providing? And it's like kind of with that framing, I'd love to kind of maybe unpack a little bit about like what led you guys to being able to put it together practically. I know y'all have different roles and different kind of areas of focus, but as you come together with the operational side of things and the vision side of things and the utility and the development side of things, like where was that kind of maybe aha moment or eureka moment of like, okay, this is what it should look like and this is what it should be?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. First of all, I totally understand where you're coming from with that whole mindset. I mean, s- and it's the aha moment is always funny to retell just because James and I have been on multiple trips together just growing up, obviously, childhood trips, college trips, post-college trips, family trips, everything in between, right? And when we were talking about starting this up, this was in March of 2023. I remember the phone call like it was yesterday. We were just chatting. I said, "Hey, man, I think it's about time we try try to go for something together. Like, why not? We are making money through our full-time jobs. Yes, we're super busy with that, but there's never any right time necessarily. Like, yes, of course, there might be a more convenient time, but why not go for it? Anyways, fast forward. Um, the app initially was supposed to be a friend tracker app. And I say friend tracker. James had been involved and actually the CEO of a startup pre-COVID that was supposed to focus on, right, how can people track each other, say, call it in festivals, in density cell service situations where cell service might not be great, and actually utilizing phones as Bluetooth hotspots and connecting and obviously communicating through Bluetooth. However, we said, okay, let's think about this. Maybe we can get this going again, because this was all pre-COVID and it was going along well. And then pre-COVID, I mean, obviously COVID happened and there were zero events going on, so it was tough to obviously continue to build that. So the aha moment came when he and I planned a trip to Coachella. This is April 2023. Um, we are camping out in Coachella, right? It's 104 degrees. We're sweating our butts off out there. And we are literally the first 2 days of the festival, not didn't even step foot in the festival, but instead walking around the campsite, passing out flyers, um, actually advertising a giveaway. So it was literally it was a one sheeter, with a QR code saying Frienzy, you know, keep track of your friends, scan and earn 2 free tickets to EDC, which was another festival in Las Vegas. And that was the initial, right, let's go out and see if we can gain some traction from this. Anyways, we fast forward to that, we're walking around the campsite, we're having conversations back and forth. We're realizing as we're walking around, wow, every person that we're talking to is traveling with a group. We're not just talking to individuals here. We're talking to groups of 5. We're talking to groups of 10. We're talking to groups of 20, maybe even more. And we just said, instead of just trying to focus on location, especially with obviously the advancement of cell service and cell connection, it's hard to compete with Elon and hard to compete with Verizon. Let's try to focus on the right how do I say this? The culmination of trip coordination. And what I mean by that is what's most important to people when they're traveling together, right? Is it other than location? So we came to the conclusion that obviously, if people are traveling together, they need an itinerary and they rely on an itinerary. A lot of people are creating shared photo albums with Apple and iCloud. And also, people needed some sort of expense tool. Splitwise is one that's growing, certainly, but once again, we wanted to take this fragmented travel coordination process and really combine it and fuse it into one tool that people could use on the go. And so that was sort
I
of the
love it.
aha moment. We're like, okay, wow, we're talking to all these groups of people. We're, you know, advertising this locator. Let's put something in front of them that I said provides one source of truth, right? You don't have, instead of sifting through 5 different applications, you have one portal that you can rely on for any sort of group travel. So that's kind of where we started on that.
That's so good. I always find it interesting too, like rarely is the thing that we know today, right? The successful thing, product, SaaS tool, whatever it may be, like rarely is it ever how it started, right? Like as the masses know it, rarely is it ever what it looked like in its first iteration. And I love that you shared like it was intended to be this thing and we realized it needed to be this thing. And it goes back to what you just said about like asking your users, right? Like if you can get to the core of what their needs are and get to the core of what they would actually use. And you guys stumbled into like, something that is communal and social. So like what Reed's Law, like it
100%.
just it's baked in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's baked in to have exponential success and provide exponential value on the user end as well. And I love that. I love the I guess it takes awareness. I would have
Yeah,
to
I know.
assume
And
it takes
I
awareness
will,
to not,
yeah,
yeah.
I hate, sorry to cut you off. I like literally
No.
what you're talking about in terms of the exponential growth factor is as we're walking around, we're talking. Um, I sort of refer to it as, right, the exponential user ratio is how can we create a product that, you know, obviously it's great to go after the individual and it all starts with the individual, but how can we create a product where one download leads to 10 or one download leads to 5 or one download leads to 20? And it has been obviously since then such a kind of a blessing of a realization in the way that, right, we had to be aware and observant of, okay, what do our users actually want? And now we've been able to provide that product for them.
I love it. I mean, it sounds like the recipe for product market fit, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
incredible. I, I'm interested because we're painting the picture of the journey, right?
Mhm.
You're sharing from concept to kind of discovery, MVP, feedback, iteration, like all the things that we know to be parts of the process.
Mhm.
But like, if someone looks at it from a granular perspective, the day to day, right? Waking up, it's Monday morning, you're met with the reality of like, we've got this long list of things that we have to work through to make it become what we know it can be. Like, why does it matter enough to do it? Why does it matter enough for both of you to pursue this?
When you say why does it matter, do you mean why does it, you know, in the way of why does it matter for us to go through the process that we go
Yeah,
through? I mean,
exactly.
I would say, in a world, especially where you talk through the product, evolving, you talk through even the world itself and the way that people are communicating with one another, and obviously handling travel as well. And I can go into that too, kind of travel on the macro level is, right, there isn't actually, for us, it's pure excitement. And it's pure excitement to actually
Mm.
be that innovator. And we love to create, is what I both have, we both discovered, is that we love to create, we love to collaborate. And if we can actually invent something that allows people to create and collaborate as well, it makes us, you know, that much more motivated to be able to, I guess, enable people to feel that same way when it comes to
Yeah.
this. And so on the day-to-day aspect, right, we have sort of our calendar for the week spread out. One day actually is set aside to a full day of creativity, whether it be new ideas, calling users, right, talking about new features. You know, a lot of the days obviously are operations and making sure that everything's taken care of, but you really do need to allow yourself, right, to take a step back multiple times a week and think about, okay, how can we be better? Not just how we think we can be better, but how does our friend think we can be better? How does a random person on the street think we can be better? James and I actually kind of talking about the aha moment. Fast forward to getting in front of the users. We actually just got back from a week-long trip in Mexico where we stayed at a few different hostels talking to users and getting in front of them. And they were downloading the app. We weren't saying, hey, download the app right now, kind of forcing it upon them, but just giving them the general idea, raising that level of interest. And now we have them messaging us through our Instagram, right? And adding us as friends on Frienzy. And it's so fun, kind of to see it come full circle. And that's really what keeps us going in terms of the motivation, in terms of, right, the excitement factor. It's it's the dream for us.
Yeah. That's incredible. I'm sure like seeing your idea out in the world, like seeing people use it and seeing people enjoy it, I bet that's got to be a pretty fulfilling,
Yeah. Y-
fuel to that fire, the continued growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. You get a little taste of it and you just want to say you want to provide more and more. It's almost like that, you know, that vicarious, living vicariously through someone else. We harp on that a lot. We're now enabling people to actually live out that dream together and live out that trip together that they've always dreamed of planning. And so it's been
Yeah.
beyond exciting for us.
You've provided a resource, you provided a community, you provided honestly like a solution. As the world of we'll just say like tech advancements and software as a whole, what do you foresee kind of like being maybe the biggest challenge today? If you guys are like having these meetings and you're ideating and you're casting these visions and you're dreaming of what could be, and you're also met with the reality of like these are very real obstacles that could prevent us from doing that. What are those things?
Yeah, well, I think in especially with obviously the way technology is headed in this huge, right, and AI coming our way almost as a storm cloud, like literally it is we are finding ways to That's a great question. We're finding ways to really fuse the upcoming times and get ahead of the game, but also provide, right, still provide that social collaboration, because AI is fantastic, right? It's great, but it's still in its early days. It still hallucinates, and especially in a world where people are going to become more and more reliant on technology and AI. Let's think about on the other side of the coin what people are going to seek because of that, and they're going to seek, right, that just that personal and social collaboration amongst one another, right? How can I use a tool that's providing me? And that's why people love ChatGPT so much so far in its early days. It's like, okay, it can ask me a question that I can then go and apply to my daily life. Now, how can we provide a tool that, right, really goes hand in hand with your day-to-day life and makes it just eases that convenience, but at the same time allows for social collaboration and peer-to-peer connectivity, and really trying to get ahead of the curve on that, but at the same time getting ahead of the eventual needs and desires of others, and bring fusing those two together has been the most fun really challenge for us from a creativity perspective.
I love it. Yeah, because I mean, again, like going back to the awareness aspect of it, like in the early days of like, oh, hey, it needs to be something different to truly serve the audience we're trying to serve and
Yeah.
do it best. And in the same way, like as growth continues and iteration is required, I I love that you keep you keep coming back to the really what I think like the benefit and the value is that communal social aspect of it. The fact that it is shared, and obviously there are features that are appealing, but features will adapt and
Mhm.
change. But I think that that's like this just inherent need for us as humans is to have that just connectivity, that tribal, that communal aspect, and to have something and enjoy it alone I don't think is as much as an enjoyment as to have something and enjoy it together. And I think that you guys have like just nailed that, and it's evident that that's something that y'all care about and that you're passionate about. So it sounds like, yeah, it seems to be the best strategic path to overcome these inevitable challenges that any startup would face.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That is exactly definitely in terms of challenges, in terms of vision, in terms of right, fu future desires and envisions for the company. That is exactly kind of our day-to-day mindset, and you couldn't have said it better.
Awesome, I appreciate that. Uh it's always, yeah, it's always refreshing to hear just kind of like when you see a tool that's appealing, it's great.
Mhm.
It does something for you. It has benefit, and when you see it again, it's utilized from a communal aspect, more appeal. But I am like such a fan of just like the story of like what's the path been, what's the journey been. So to hear some of these things, the behind the curtain things, like it's story time for me, and I love it. I couldn't, yeah, I can't get enough of it.
Yeah,
I want to
uh,
have.
you're
uh,
yeah, you're right about that. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, you're good. I'm curious, kind of as you reflect on like where you are today. Obviously, you guys have grand visions, and this is just, it sounds like it's just the beginning. But there has been early success, there has been traction,
Mhm.
there has been growth, and product market fit, and things that you guys can see evidence of, basis of success, like it's validated. As you sit here today, kind of reflecting on some of the journey that we've talked about, some of the things that have led y'all to where you are today, like what would you say, like, are maybe a couple of the most key things, the most important things that y'all have picked up, that if you were to go and have that conversation with yourselves a year ago, 2 years ago, what would be the things that you would share?
Hey, sorry, I lost you there for a second. Heard key
Did I lose you?
key things, and then from there, I was
Yeah.
key things that we have picked up
No, you're
through the
good. So
process.
Yeah, if you were to, the old cliche question, right? Talk to yourself a
Yep.
year or two ago and share those key things, the lessons that you've learned, that you're equipped with now that you weren't equipped with then, what would that
Yeah, I
be?
mean, I would say, listen, everyone, an idea, anybody can have an idea, and a lot of people do have amazing ideas. And number one, I would recommend them to pursue it if they are that passionate about it. Number two, right, nobody could have actually prepared James or myself, right, for the level of perseverance and self-doubt and vulnerability that we've kind of discussed today and talked through, right? Um, we good things are happening every day, and I'm not saying bad things are happening every day, but we're learning every single day, right? And new troubles arise all the time. But right, trying to not get too high, not get too low, and at the end of the day, be pragmatic between the emotions, right, is really what we've found most valuable. You know, like I said, we when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to the product advancement, when it comes to right, James and I setting expectations up here for ourselves and sometimes ending up right here, we look at each other and we say it's a good thing we hold ourselves to a higher standard is because although feel like we felt right here, we really the expectation should have been right here. And so really I would say the combination of accountability, perseverance, self-doubt at times are some of the most challenging and you know un I don't want to say unknowingly because we knew that these times would come, right? But some of the most valuable times of our lives, and really we've learned so much. We've learned more about ourselves than about the product itself, and that's what's so cool about this. Like the
Yeah,
personal growth that we've both at least seen ourselves have, even work going full time on this for the past 3 months, has been invaluable and insane in the best of ways.
that's awesome. What an adventure, and it's only the beginning,
Yeah,
right?
I mean it takes perseverance and motivation, but literally, if you can see, even if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel all day, every day, which you won't, I can guarantee you won't. um, that's why we have each other and we can rely on each other is to keep pushing us forward and keep us on track towards that next milestone and towards that next goal.
That's incredible. Great
Yeah,
words of wisdom, some sage
I
advice there.
appreciate it.
That's incredible. Of course, of course. No, this has been great. Like you've shared a ton. I think there's a ton of, for other startups, for other founders, people early on, or even, midway through their journey. I think there's so much here that you've shared that people can glean from your experience. Um, where's the best place? Where can people find and download your app? Where can they connect with you guys and follow along
Yeah,
and get more?
so first of all, we're available on the App Store and the Google Play Store. Type in Frienzy, Frienzy. I'm sure you'll attach it to the video, but available on Apple and Google Play. Also on Instagram and TikTok, we're starting to kind of ramp up uh, our socials and really ramping up our partnerships with other creators to uh, get our name out there further and really advertise and market ourselves as our user base grows day over day, month over month. Um, yeah, you can find us there, and you can also head over to our landing page frienzy.io and you can learn a little bit more. And also, it has the links to the App Store and the Google Play Store.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I'm excited for one. I know we've talked a little bit offline about things that are in development, things that I can hear your excitement when you talk about them, and I can't wait to see them come to fruition. And I've already created something great. So yeah, people should definitely head over, download your app, start using it, elevate the experience of their planned trips and just that communal aspect. Yeah, and I can't thank you enough. This has been a great conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat and hearing a bit more about just the journey and the story that has gotten you guys to where you
Listen,
are today.
I appreciate it. From one entrepreneur to another, like I said, it takes a certain amount of courage and determination, and I'm glad you reached out. And I'm excited to see Nice SaaS move forward, and looking forward to watching your journey and see your development as well.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. It's been a pleasure.